about the traditions, the roots, the history, the culture. And then how do you set yourself up basically as a practitioner and an expert? The second conversation will be about innovation, perception, and futurity. So how are things changing? How is folk culture perceived from older generations and from younger generations? And then what are we looking forward to going forward? The third conversation will be about teaching and community and youth engagement. So how are we engaging youth in this information, in this practice? And what does that look like? What are the challenges? How do we involve the community? What kind of pushback do we get from the community? And then the last one, we'll talk about professionalism, longevity, and economic viability. So how do organizations like this stay alive, right? How do they get supported? How do they get funded? How does the funding change what the culture looks like? And how do we get respected as professionals? How do we demand certain things that maybe other cultures, other traditions have automatically, right? And then we'll invite, some reflections from the guests, and then reflections from you, questions from you. And again, we're thinking about what's next. How do we support this? How do we change this? How do we reconfigure what we think we know? And how do we make it useful to us moving forward in a way that's progressive and supportive and inclusive? So, without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Rose October and Milteri to come up. I'm going to transition as I introduce you guys. So Milteri Tucker, born and raised in Puerto Rico. Milteri holds a degree in dance, biology, and chemistry, as well as a master's degree in dance education from NYU. She's the founder and artistic director of Bombasso Dance Company. Woo! Ms. Tucker has apprenticed and performed with Bomba elders and distinguished families in San Juan, Santurce, Loíza, Cataño, Ponce, Mayagüez, and Arroyo, Puerto Rico. As an educator and master Bomba dancer, she lectures on dance technique, figure, and timing across the United States and the world. Dr. Rose October. Dr. Rose October originates from Guyana and has been a principal dancer of the Guyana National Dancer Company until she migrated. Yes, give her some proud. She has over 40 years of dance experience. Currently, she is an assistant cultural director of the Guyana Cultural Association, and she's a co-chair of its Quick committee. She'll tell you what Quick is. As a freelance dancer choreographer, Rose's artistic involvement continues in the Guyanese and Caribbean communities. Dr. October holds a PhD in Advanced Behavioral Studies from Capella University and is on the faculty at SUNY Empire College. And again, yes, so. And again, they're talking about intergenerational dialogue, research methods, and rites of passage. So let them get started. Hi.
So one of the things we were talking about earlier was the involvement of your ancestry, that particular line. I think that's important for us to talk about it. Maybe you want to share more.
Definitely. First, one, two. One. Okay, here we go. Well, first, I want to thank Candace for inviting me, and it's such an honor to be here amongst all of you beautiful people. Sometimes I feel that Puerto Rico gets left from the Caribbean pack, in the land of the Caribbean. So it's very nice, and I feel privileged. Before I talk about part of my ancestry is talking a little bit more about Bomba, right, and what that is. And that's Puerto Rico's African ancestry and heritage. It dates back to the 17th century, and really it is more of a release from the everyday situations that our ancestors lived and what we live still to this day. And it's a communication, it's a dialogue between dancer and drummer, where there's a specific way, there's a codified movement now, I would say, because of the many families who have kept it alive. And, as I continue my practice, because I'll tell you this as you bring up, or it's not written yet completely, it was marginalized because it came from communities of color, Black Puerto Ricans. And so much so that it was outlawed in certain towns of Puerto Rico. And they'll tell you even that the connection that we have with Haiti and that Boma has with Haiti. So that learning more about our history besides what our ethnicity is in terms of the Caribbean people reflects a lot of my practice and what I love to also engage my audience with. And part of that ancestral lineage, even though I'm not per se directly involved as one of the families that came about, but I remember stories from my grandmother, and also she would tell me from my grandfather that they would, gather together and bring out the drums and sing and dance and what that feeling was. And I think that's very important because, knowledge is passed down through our grandparents and our parents and uncles and aunts as well. That part of oral history. So, yes, fast forward now, at one point you will only see Bomba in certain events around certain times of the year in Puerto Rico. And now what's beautiful is that with the advancement of technology and also the resurgence from a documentary that was created in the early 2000s, it has resurged a sense of pride and Blackness in Puerto Rico, which I'm very proud of. People are returning back to the roots, looking a little bit deeper in questioning, and kind of decolonizing their minds, decolonizing their bodies, and using Bomba as that practice for themselves as well. And what happens here in the diaspora is that search for the roots, because you're Puerto Rican and something else. Puerto Rican and Dominican, Puerto Rican and Cuban. So going back deep into who you are as a person and what your roots are and connecting with it, that's what's happening in the diaspora. I feel like that's the third step I'm quenching for a lot of people with my practice. So in terms of ancestry, for me, is going back and speaking to those who are still alive and asking them more specific questions in terms of the movement, why the specific rhythm, because to this day still, scholars cannot answer why is this step called Yuban, why is this step called, why do we do a certain movement? And they just say it's like a reaction to the rhythm, right? And it's also, as for me, is when I'm counting, is how far does the ancestor or the elder allows you to know? That's always a big question mark within my practice.
As I was listening to you, I was thinking more about how difficult it is for our youths to get involved in the practices, in folklore practices. And you mentioned the whole social media piece. That is good and bad, because I am sure that most of us in here can attest to seeing our young children of Caribbean or West Indian ancestry on Labor Day, just for that one day, pull out their flag, right, to show their colors. They try to imitate their parents' dialect for one day, and then they pull back in. That is part of the struggle also in keeping our folk culture alive, because folk culture, if you're not comfortable in self, and most youth are not, because they're developing, they are ashamed of being in the same space with adults who are playing instruments that are alien to them. So if most youth that I know, see a large group of older folks, not necessarily elders, with drums in the middle, they shy away or they laugh about it. And later on, we become those older folks, right? So we have to think about the cycle and the impression that we are leaving for our children in the way that we are raising them to. I think it's very important that as immigrants, we can't leave that out of the picture, because that's the reason part of the reason we're having this conversation. It's because we are trying to keep our roots, keep our traditions alive. And we have to start as adults training up our children with respect to their culture, to our culture. Not wait until they get to 35, 45, to start doing this. And I do believe this that is happening right now is so important. I'm hoping that we're streaming someplace and somebody someplace is sitting in the living room or, watching with their grandchildren or their children, because it's important that we keep re-educating our adults. It's important that we educate our children so that they understand that this is a part of who you are and you should not feel embarrassed for in a minute. To take off your shoes in a minute, and roll your shoulders and shake, and it's okay, and then you just pull up and then you cross your legs like nothing happened, because this is really who you are. I think that just to tap one last thing too, it also gives a sense of pride. Candice mentioned that I'm a part of the Puerto Committee for Guyana Cultural Association. I can't tell you how important it is to keep that alive. People have heard about Puerto, it's a ceremony done in the villages in Guyana the night before the wedding. And people come to Puerto, it's supposed to be a participatory thing. And let me tell you, we don't have enough chairs in here. They find a chair and sit down, and then it's hell to get them out of the chairs to participate. Some of them don't want to sweat up because they're going someplace, that kind of thing. It takes a while for them to get up, but they do get up. But the point that I'm making is, many who attend Puerto might say something like, I only heard about it, I've never gone to it. I've done it once. My friends told me about it, so I came to see. And we're talking old folks here. And if our older folks are talking this way, if the adults are talking this way, our children are lost. And that's just one example of the struggles that I know you, my brothers and sisters, have in the Caribbean region. But it starts with how, and we also have to talk to our governments in our home country, because with media, with the social media platforms, I like to say, anything foreign, the natives embrace. Once it's local, they don't want it.
I totally agree with you. I mean, growing up, it's part of it needs to be part of our families, right? Something that we're okay with talking. I told you that Boba was marginalized in Puerto Rico, and it was seen as something as not to do. So a lot of families, specifically families of color, were kind of ashamed of talking about that. Grandparents as well, aunts and uncles from that had that experience. It was not part of the daily conversation. What I'm seeing though is, and it's beautiful to see, is that people are reclaiming their spaces, they're reclaiming their history, because what happens is a lot of our history is not written by us.
Exactly.
It's being written by other people who are watching, they're spectators, they're visiting our islands, they're like, oh, what is that? Oh, wow. And oh, really? And what? And then they ask certain questions, and then they go and write a whole dissertation about it without being involved in the culture per se. And I have a problem with that, right? Just as when I'm a student of, as a Caribbean dancer, I still feel myself that I have a lot to learn from everyone. As a Boga practitioner as well, and I continually go back, and I just recently came back from Puerto Rico on the Boga research where we specifically went to specific towns, talking to the elders who are still alive, whose grandmother was the one who organized all these families in Maya West, which is where a lot of the Creoles and a lot of the French plantation owners came in because of the history with the Haitian Revolution, and all that came and settled in Puerto Rico, talking to them, going to Arecibo, not part of the island, and learning that it was completely outlawed, that you can't really find the names or the songs. They would talk about it, they were rude about it. But if we don't go and speak to the elders ourselves, we won't know. And for us to tell our stories in our perspective. And one interesting fact was, as the elder in our conversation was reminiscing on their youth and their experience with the folk, I heard one of their family members say, don't tell everything. Don't tell them everything. You have to keep certain things for yourself. And I'm like, but that's a disservice. There's a huge gap. There was nothing written. People were afraid of writing it. People were afraid of talking about it. When you find dissertations, it's just very minimal, very basic. It's not in depth. And we have a living legend in this practice telling us their experiences, telling us how they learned, who they learned from, and their circumstances living. And I think that's a disfavor to us in order to continue, right? I didn't address it at that time. At that point, I just listened and I continued. But I do think that's a disservice to us as a Caribbean people, because if we don't write our own stories and we don't tell them ourselves, then there's a danger of our stories being changed, right?
Right. I want to add to what you're saying, because charity begins at home. And I'm here to this service, but that's where we come in. We need to start a conversation now with our older folks. I didn't say elders yet. We shouldn't wait until they turn elders to have those conversations with them. Because in the meantime, foreigners who do not look like us go to get the stories and they distort them.
Yes.
And we have to take some responsibility for that too.
Yes.
Because a lot of what we do is commercialized by other folks who don't look like us, who tell our stories for us. And we are thinking like, what is going on? But we also have to look within. That's why, again, I'm applauding the collaborators of this event, because it has to begin someplace. You mentioned, go ahead. You mentioned the piece about going home and researching. Not many of us are involved in our own research. When I did my dissertation, part of it had to do with culture, meeting your children. And I'm saying that loosely so that we can understand what I'm talking about. But that could be seen as abuse in this country when other places it is viewed differently. The same thing with our folk culture. It can be seen as something else. It's always a variation on a theme that's related to something else and not really to us. And we have to take responsibility for that. And part of being responsible is getting in research, going to the villages, talking with the children and the elders, not just the elders, because we want to get the children's perspective and get them involved from young so that they can understand that you have an interest here too.
Absolutely. Just want to add real quick. And that's our responsibility as people, right? Like you mentioned that Catherine Dunham is a purpose. I had the privilege of meeting Catherine Dunham while I was a student at Hunter College. And I know the impact at that time because I was still finding myself as a dancer in New York, because we have to go back and include those in our curriculums. We have to go into the schools talking about, because sometimes that conversation doesn't happen within our families. There's still some negative stigma because of people who wrote about it, because we saw it in the Hollywood television, negative stigma about our culture and about our practices. And not really understanding the spirituality, not really understanding the reason behind it. And I feel as educators, as dancers, we need to be in the universities. I work a lot with the elementary and middle school and high school students through our organization. Really making a conscious of what this is, not just about bomba, but it's a community as a whole. Yes. And two really good things. One of the things that I'm committing myself to is that I wrote a children's book about bomba. And I'm very proud of that because it's the first one, bilingual, all these years. And I didn't do that to be lucrative. I did that because I want the stories to be told by us. So that way our future generations who are looking at it, or educators who are not part of our culture, can say, oh, this is written by somebody, this is what it is, because going to Google is not as accessible. And one last thing before I close, and I thank you because we have to talk more of it than from me. But I want to invite all of you in November up to the Bronx, to the 5 train all the way up. I started as part of our mission to unite all the voices of the Caribbean and Hispanic, Central Hispanic cultures. And on November 9th and 10th at Pregones Theater, we're having a production where you will see Afro-Peruvian, Afro-Colombia, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, obviously West African dance, we had our dance company. And of course, one of the elders from Bomba come in, and I think all that drum and that energy on one stage, I think it's important as Caribbean people for us to not only see and know what the differences are. I think it's more about seeing what unites us, and that's through the drum and dance, because there are rhythms that unites us, and there are movements that unite us. So I exhort you all to come up and have some more information about it. I'll share with campus. Thank you so much.